We are all looking at the price action of XRP, and one of the most important questions I often get asked is about the profit taking ranges. Where should I consider taking my profits, skimming my profits? I'm going to give you my thought process about what levels I'm looking at and why I think those levels matter. Because if that's a one off, okay, now we really don't know whether that's going to repeat. But the price action does give you ideas about what it has done in the past, and we can backtest the exact same thing going all the way back 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And if you see that something is repeating again and again, I would argue that don't misunderstand that. Price action is trying to give you a clear narrative. It's us who has to take the right perspective. Why? Because historically speaking, we have seen this not just once, we have seen this again and again and again. So if that's about to happen here, we shouldn't be surprised, one, and two, we should take our profits whatever happens in wave two. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. And before we start, I would like to say thank you for each and every one of you guys who hit that like button in the last video. I've seen about 500 likes after a long period of time. So if you're watching this now, please do smash that like button for me. Now, when you actually look at the price action, yeah, we're going to talk about this macro structure because that I think is really important. Why? Because when you actually see the price action doing something, you can call this in different names, but you do see the price doing something. And when you break that down, the 1, the 2, the 3 in a microwaves, you do get that 2 inside, which is a primary stuff to watch. And we also understand the fact that this is not just happening in one asset. We are watching the exact same thing happen in a lot of different assets. Right? If you actually look at this range, which is in 2021, and then you actually go into XRP back in 2016, you actually watch something similar. And the pattern which was in XRP in 2016 is now present in Sia coin. So that's in 2021. So it's not like, one pattern is only playing out in one asset. We get to see hints in the market. The market kind of gives us a clear narrative. So if that's true, then the next question is how high we are going to go. The wave 2, is that going $40, $50? Is that going around $10 to $15? The question remains to be answered. And we are going to try to see a clear picture. Based on the wave, based on the trend, based on the pattern, we need to get an idea where we are headed. Now, first of all, once you see a run up after a consolidation, after a corrective movement, how do the market react? Sometime the market actually starts reacting like this, which is great. One happens to be a deeper correction, which come back to test the support level or back test the breakout here, which is great because after that you start moving higher. And if you actually measure the move, the first move here was 20%, after which you saw a 70%. So it's like, just about 3 times of what it has done in the first one. Great. Now we are looking at the next one and it's like, okay, the first one was like 60%. The next one is about 180%. So that again, 3 times the move in the first one. So now the primary question, okay, we get some idea. How long does it actually take for the price to do this? First time, after it did a 20% move, it took 14 days before it moved up. Next time when it moved up 60%, it took us 22 days before we popped after that. So if we put that into perspective, we are not averaging the number of days saying, okay, it's going to be 18 days, which won't be logical at this point because the ROI structure which we just created is 104%, which is the recent rally last week, right? If that's true, then we are more or less looking towards 30-35 days of consolidation before we pop. That's a probability. If the price starts to pop tomorrow, don't say it's a fake out. Most likely the price may do that. I do have the fundamental reason for that because when you actually go looking at the on-chain data, you kind of see the open interest in Bitcoin is actually putting in a new local high at a time when the price is slowing down. So that kind of gives us some interest, because it's not only in Bitcoin. If you actually look at the Bitcoin longs, the Bitcoin open interest, and then come on to the entire crypto market, looking at what the price action in these assets are doing, especially the XRP, XLM, Ether, all of this, we get a taste of something, right? Yeah, we're going to test this support. I don't think there is a doubt on it. But the fundamentals are so strong that we cannot neglect this anymore. This is a huge date, because if Russia as a nation is going on for their central bank digital currency launch, China has already done that. I believe India has already done the pilot, so they are going to go launch their central bank digital currency too. Why is that so important for us who are in the XRP ledger? I've talked about this for a long period of time, and now watching Raul come out and say this, I'm like, wow, that's something we have been talking here for the last 3 years, right? We've gone through a ton of the data from UN, World Economic Forum, Bank of International Settlement, you name it, all these payment institutions and those who control the world, the supranational organizations, all of them gave you the exact same detail. And that's why this now becomes so important. As the world moves towards central bank digital currency era, XRP ledger will be at the center of it. It's not me saying that. It's a macro investor. And he also gives you the right perspective, saying it has deep connection with global governments. That's what we have been saying, right? We've been doing the research for long. Now, if you take all this and then jump back into the price action, you may find it a little bit easier to digest big numbers. But before you plot such numbers into the price action, it becomes important to say, okay, that is true. But if you actually reduce the noise and look at this, we can argue with one perspective saying, okay, this was a trend line which we broke to the upside. We retested that range. We bounced off. That's perfect. That's great. But we also have to understand this was a local high of 2017. This was a local high of 2021. So if we extend that, we should actually see something like this on our way. So when the price action reaches a range here, we are watching a resistance. Now, this is a line chart, so you're not seeing the wick. But if you actually put in the candlestick, you're watching that the price action came to 0.93. Now, here in CoinPaprika, it shows you 0.89. But if you look in different exchanges, especially Binance, where you have a ton of volume, we watched it go up to 0.93. So that exactly meet this trend line. That is where we are getting a little bit of resistance for the time being, after which I think this range is going to act as a support and we're going to bounce and break through that. But the primary question now becomes like, how long it's going to take before we break to the upside. Because whatever we have talked right now, watching all these bull flags and different time horizons in different areas, we are watching something similar playing off here. So for me, the question becomes, when I look at the chart and ask myself, okay, are you talking about the next bull market coming in here with a bull flag? Or are you talking about we are already in it, right? So if we look at this on a different perspective, saying, okay, we are starting to run up, not that we have started before. So that means this leg up is just the starting point where you are entering into that macro phase of bull market. So this is one of the biggest possibility I see. And if that's true, you do see a retest, which is short, agreed. It doesn't actually take a long time horizon. That happens pretty quickly. Whether it's in the past, whether it's now, we see that happening every now and then. So that shouldn't actually panic you. That's one thing. Now, if you actually take into consideration of this particular move, which we discussed 3 times this one, and what about the next leg after that? Yeah, historically, we have seen that it's going to do 3 times the first run up in the next one. What about if it is just getting started? That's why I prioritize saying the point that we are just starting from here. And that does mean the next leg would most likely look something like this. That's like a 8 to 10x, say 9x of the wave 2 move on the micro level. Let's plot that and see how XRP actually plays out. If XRP is giving us the same exact narrative, showing us, okay, we are going into that macro now, where would we actually go, right? We're going to look at that. So say first, you watch the price action and say, okay, this is the starting point. We have done like, a 95% move. So if we take that, we can actually say, okay, we're going to come back down to test this range. Okay, great. We're being conservative and putting the argument that, okay, after that, we're going to go towards a 3 times movement of that, maybe a little bit above, but let's stay, somewhat conservative and say, this is what we are looking at. So the next run up would run and touch $2. What does that actually mean for all of us? Because when you plot that, you see the price action is testing the last resistance, which we created in 2021. That was like the 2021 highs. So that should be an important point. So if you manage to buy in this range, you are in a decent profit here. So saying I'm not going to take any profit at that level would be mad. Go back in time and ask yourself, when the price action was here, 0.5, 0.6, and you didn't take profit at 1.9, did you really think that, if the price was at 1.9, I should have taken it? If that's you, then there is no argument. You should take some, maybe 2%, maybe 5%. That depends on what type of investor you are. That's why we are actually going through this in detail, right? We are actually going through the Ask for TA sessions right now, looking forward to doing the next session and going through a lot of these updates in the group so that you guys actually get to know what exactly is happening. And in a lot of one-on-one sessions right now, the major talk is the exits, where you are taking the profits, how I should set the profit level. All this is being discussed. Now, if that's true, and this level is important, now we need to actually think like, okay, we may correct back down. After hitting this level, imagine we come back down, say 50% drop, significant one. And then we run up a 8 to 10x after that, which means that particular burst is looking towards $10 in XRP. That's first level of upside, which you're talking about in a macro perspective way. This was not your top, right? You dropped after that, then you went on further. So we are not talking about the roof of that run up. We are talking about areas where you should see significant amount of resistance, because there would be people or algorithms which measure through these price structure and plot these targets and take profits just below that. So if you're waiting for $10 and they take profit at 9.5 and you see macro volatility like this, 30-40% dip, believe me, you're going to get panicked and you may sell at the bottom, which may not be in the right interest for you. That's why I'm saying, look at these levels. If $10 is the mark which we get here, that also acts as a psychological level. So do take profit. Imagine those guys who have 100,000 units of XRP at $10, they're millionaires. The psychological level, the emotions go, weird at that time. I've seen that face, so I can say that. Now, think about this. If you have $1 million, at that point, your emotion is going to be so much because you accumulated this stuff over the last 4-5 years and you managed to reach that amount. And now the price shows you big numbers in your portfolio. 10% drop in the numbers is like, boom, your emotions is going to kick on you. So you really don't want that phase to happen. Now, that's just the starting point of this. If you actually look for the macro, you do understand the fact that we discussed something like this for a long period of time, saying this is a macro rounded bottom, which means that you will see the price action giving you big numbers. Why? This actually kind of runs into the area where you get a cup and handle pattern, which has a measured move of like 13x. So say the price action breaks this range of $2 and the measured move is like 13x, somewhat like this, $24. That is double the number what we have just talked, $10, right? We talked about $10 to $12 and right now the price action for this pattern looks like $24. So you cannot actually neglect that fact. But at the same time, to think, okay, is that possible? You're looking at the wave one. The wave one was like 15x and we know crypto does 5x wave 1 in wave 2. That's the average number we have seen across the spectrum. But yeah, there are also conservative cases where you just do 2x. So what would be that number like? 2 to 3x. So if you actually put that number in and you say, okay, 3x is close to $10, it makes sense to say, okay, I'm going to take profit just below that psychological level. That's critical level one for me personally. I can't, highlight the importance of this particular level. Then the next one becomes 45. That's like, around 15. So think about this. At $10, at $15, you will see massive selling pressure coming into the market where people do take their profits. Institutions will take their profits. Whether you and me take this or not, institutions, the whales who have accumulated like, 100 million units, 50 million units, all of them are going to try and take profits. And that's going to sell a lot more units into the market, increasing the supply suddenly. And that may not be the right thing which we want to look at. Because yes, we will see an initial run-up of 10x, which was the first move as I described here. And I believe that's coming soon. Why? Because the point being laid out here is that, okay, we broke this trend to the upside. We have been inside that for a long time. The measured move there kind of gives you a 10x. So if you plot that 10x and say, okay, we broke at this particular level, say 0.5, and we put that number here and say, okay, we're going to reach $5-6 soon, that's going to create FOMO. That's all-time highs. That's price discovery. And it won't be easy holding on to your asset at that time. So if your average is say 0.3 and you see $6, you're already 20x your money. So most of us would be thinking like, the volatility, I don't care about it. I'm going to wait for $100 XRP, $1,000 XRP, whatever your number is. But believe me, I've seen thousands of people face to face watching the euphoria and what happens in the market. Most of them really don't want to take profit. 1. 2, when they have a 20-30% drawdown, then they flip. The portfolio goes from say 100,000 to 60,000, they take the profits. That's not the right thing to do. The portfolio goes from $1 million to 700,000, then they take the profit. That's not the right thing to do. You want to try and catch somewhat like 900 to $1 million or whatever your top end is at that price point. You're not going to get the exact top. That's completely fine. When we took the profits close to 1.91, we never knew the actual top was going to be 1.91 or 1.97 or just close to that. We are following technicals. It actually gives us an advantage. What? It kind of gives us a story where it literally, if you learn the language of technical analysis, that is showing you or informing you that the story is here. If you are able to read that, now you understand the fact that institutions are jumping out, you should consider doing so. If not, now it becomes a pain. Now you see that the weekly candle, he actually highlight the fact that, okay, we do have some sort of selling pressure. We are watching the price going down. Great. That's the short-term level which we are discussing about. Because we have actually seen scenarios where we do see these kind of price action coming in after a big run up, where you do see the price action going to retest the previous resistance, which would turn into a support and then bounce off. So these kind of quick moves, if you're trying to catch those, yeah, you are a micro trader trying to catch all those big moves. Good luck. But if you are a position trader, a swing trader, you don't care about all those mess in the market. What you're looking at is a macro targets, and that's what we just went through. So if you receive value, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I do appreciate that a lot. And if you're looking for updates on different assets on the right time, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So that's it for the day, guys. I'll be there on the next video. Bye for now.